All right, one more time. I'm Cull Vorgonite, and I'm here today to start talking about and to start manifesting a dream, to bring the dream to reality, my dream into reality. Okay, and I'm going to start with this hat I've been wearing for a couple years. It has an angel on it, and it says, this is about my mother. In the rhythm of knitting needles, there is music for the soul. And we have a little button here that says Soul Adventure on it, and a peace sign, and a Sassy Save Me dog tag that came back to me. Anyways, and bird feathers, macaw feathers, and different stuff. It's just my vibration. Okay. So, it's a journey, period. Michelle. I'm here with a friend, Michelle, who's helping me through this, and we're just going to start. She's going to ask some things, and we're just going to let this unfold, which is how this sort of thing works.
Kim, would you mind sharing some of your life-changing experiences with us?
Well, let's start with how I ended up journeying. I was sick for many, many years, like 14 years. Started with cancer, snowballed, a variety of things happened, and it was to the point where I couldn't take care of myself. I was just barely getting by. But, anyways, it was a long process. A lot of illness, total disability. But there I am in Honolulu one day, how my journey started, how my spiritual journey started, which I've been on about 3 years now, I guess. And since I woke up, which is what I'm about, and that's what the purple is. The purple is the violet flame. Oh, jeez. There goes the. And this is Sassy, the purple poodle. And we just go through life and we walk around and we make people smile because it's all about the violet flame and living from the heart. And so people look at her in her purpleness, and somebody that I see walking down the street in total grouch mode will all of a sudden break into a giggle and a smile. So we just walk through life and go on our way, and that's what it's about. Blazing the violet flame through people's hearts and helping them to wake up and have a smile and to learn, whether they know it or not, what I'm doing is trying to open their heart. Okay. Which is my commitment is, and what this is about and the dream is about, is heart-based living. Living from your very authentic self. Being completely honest in your life and becoming a totally authentic person. Period. That's where it started. So I'm in Honolulu, and I have a roommate who uncharacteristically dragged me off to a Mind Body Expo. Literally, I was on the couch with the remote going like this, which is what I did. And I didn't know anything about crystals or healing stones or mind, body, spirit or meditation. Nothing. Okay. And she's just like, you got to go to this, Kim. Come on. And she never went to anything like that either in a couple of years that I knew her, right? So off we go. So anyway, she even paid my $10 entry fee, which that was totally out there too. And so I walk into this seminar, and I walk into this room, and this woman's in the front, and she's speaking, and I sit down, and she's talking about love. it turns out her name is Sage, and she was a spiritual teacher over on Big Island, Hawaii. Now this was in Oahu, Honolulu, that I met this expo, which I lived for many, many years. Um, so as this woman's speaking, I don't know, it's almost like I went somewhere else. I mean, this is how people wake up. This is the beginning of my awakening. Okay. All of a sudden, as the words were coming out of her mouth, I knew what she was going to say. I mean, like in this little space between when the lips start to move and the words formed and you hear it, I knew what she was saying. Everything she said. So I sat there for like an hour listening, and it's like when you have thoughts or you know what somebody's going to say before they say it, kind of, but it's just that very, like that quick, right? So I'm sitting there and it's like boom, 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 light bulbs going off, the light bulb. It's like I was being totally lit up. And my heart just swelled. And everything she was saying, which right now, could I tell you what that speech was about? No, not exactly. It was about love, and it was about waking up, and anyways, so I knew what she was saying, and everything she said, it's like, I know that. But I didn't just know that. I felt that. And I felt it come from within and like consume me and go without, like this. So it's like her words, as they came out of her mouth, were coming out of my heart and just like going like this. I was just like, whoa, you know. So after it was all over, I'm like, so what happened there was my heart broke open. And then this is all Greek to me, totally unknown, right? So afterwards, all I knew was I needed to talk to this person. And I needed to learn more. And looking back at it now and knowing what I know now, I see that what happened is I vibrationally went through a major, major shift. So I went from here to here, vibrationally. Okay, is what happened. So I knew I had to talk to her. So I just went up to her afterwards and started talking to her. Well, long story short, turns out that we had mutual friends. I mean, she knew someone that I knew, and blah, 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 blah. And unknown to her, right, and I hadn't said anything, was that I was moving to Maui, like the following week, and I'd been back and forth to Maui for a couple months, going back and forth. I was going to go to school there. I needed to change my life up. So I was in a period of transition and needed to make some changes. Now, my sweet sister and her husband sponsored me and was helping me financially to make this transition. And I don't know, I just had decided months before that I was going to leave Oahu and go to Maui, which I knew nothing about anyways. But so I'd been over a period of months in Maui, flying back and forth and getting an apartment and learning about it and talking to people. So I'm moving to Maui the following week, right? So this woman just looks at me out of nowhere and says, Kim, you're not going to Maui. And I hadn't said anything to her. And she says, Kim, you're not going to Maui. You're going to come to Big Island. And you're going to study with me. And I have a little group. And you're going to end up teaching yourself. And I just cracked up. I was like, ha ha. Yeah, right, okay. And I just chuckled and laughed and laughed and laughed. And we talked and talked and talked. And she just looked at me and smiled. Like that. Okay. But anyways, I connected with her. And I knew that I would be in touch with this person, but hey, I'm going my way, right? Next morning, 9 a.m., talking on the phone. I'm supposed to go over Thursday and move officially and sign the lease when I get there. I'd already seen the apartment, done everything with it with the landlords. And I'm talking to the landlord, and they tell me they decided they're not going to rent the place out. And I'm SOL'd. No apartment. So I'm like, all right. So I'm sitting on my couch in Oahu, in Waikiki, and I'm like, okay. Sage, that was the teacher's name from the day before. I'm starting to chuckle now. So I'm like, all right, just for grins, I just got to see where this is going, right? I know nothing about Big Island. So I got on Craigslist, and I thought, what's it like to live there? What do apartments cost? Because I live on disability and I live on an income and so on and so forth. And I just looked at this place and got a phone number and Googled it because you can go on the satellite and see the neighborhood, and technology is so totally cool. So I thought, well, I could do this. I don't need to fly. Let's just see. I'm just gonna see how this. So I call this guy, and he was like so cool. Well, I end up getting the apartment the next day. He's like, okay, Cam, come on. He checked out a couple references, I guess, made a couple phone calls. We chatted. And, send me a check, and you got the apartment. So I figured, what the heck? I guess I'm moving to Big Island. And that's how I ended up moving to Big Island. Now, had I known then, Hilo gets the most rainfall of any place in the United States because it's a subtropical area. I mean, they get more rainfall than Seattle. Old Harbor, where my sister is, which I could not believe. Anyways, and I don't like rain. I'm on Oahu. It's, 75 degrees, and it's beautiful, 24/7, 365, right? So, anyways. But that's how I ended up in Big Island. That's how I ended up moving to Big Island. It took a couple weeks for me to move, but everything else just fell into place. My car, the shipping, So off I went. And I knew nothing about Big Island or Hilo when I went. And that's how I ended up going to Big Island. And I ended up going to Sage's class. And I had no money, and I told her, because they do, some teachers charge and some don't. But she only charged like $11 a class, and they met once a week, and I didn't even have the $11. It was like an hour's drive from Hilo, and not knowing anything about the Big Island, I just took this apartment in Hilo because it was nice and it was reasonable and it worked out. So I figured that's a jumping off place, right? So that's what I did. And drove out to where she was at in Seaview, which is in Puna, my Puna heaven that I talk about so much, and I will talk about in time. Anyway, so that's how I ended up there, and that's where my journey began. And that's when my heart started to open up. And looking back at it now, I mean, I was a mess, okay? I was still, gosh, in 30 years I hadn't lived alone. I'd always lived in a house with someone else, or I was married, or blah, 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 in a relationship, or something, something, something. I'd never been alone. So here I go over there. It's the first time in my life I ever was alone, and it was a challenge. It was a challenge. So I just started going to Sage's classes once a week, and it just grew from there. And that's where we started.
Amazing.